Let's get this party started. I mean, one of the things that we always talk about here when you're looking at the after show, we can review some trades. I know we want to be able to do that. And
throw up the rundown, guys.
Yeah, let's throw up the rundown here. I'm just getting myself situated. I actually have to log into the chat. That's the other thing.
Yeah, no problem.
Shreve gets in here and it's like there's always a bunch of stuff
things
that's
are missing.
And everything I had set up, I'm like, oh yeah, somebody sits at this desk.
It's all Shreve's
and
fault.
Things are missing and all that kind of good stuff. But really, I almost want to think about like today had some earnings plays. And if you think about the biggest opportunities that were in this market, and I know Lululemon was a good trade. And it was a good trading opportunity. And it's not that it was bad or there was anything that was nonsensical about taking the long in Lulu, and it was a good one to be had. But I missed out by only trading Lululemon. I definitely missed out on that big Dell trade. Now Lulu gave you that break. It ended up getting to that 400 level. If you look at my 1 minute chart, you're like, well, how could you have liked the dip buy? It was all about the dip buy today on Lulu. And it came in at that 386 level. And it was absolutely fantastic off the open. We ended up breaking out 400. I got a $4 move in there. But really, as strong as this one was to the long side, it's easy enough to dwell on the successes that you had, but I completely missed Dell. Now you got to put in perspective what happened on Dell Technologies today and what made it such an explosive opportunity. It was earnings. That's check one. There's the big E in my trade ideas, right? It broke out on the daily chart in a big way above monster resistance on the daily 62. That's step two. So you go from that. Let's go into a 5 minute here to look at what happened right at the open. I mean, it's trading at and above at the open, that big daily breakout level, and it just breaks right away off the top and does not stop and gets to $70. It even pulls back $2 and then regains the high. That is your A-plus trading opportunity. It was an earnings play. It was right there for you. It showed you the levels. I picked Lulu, and yes, it was a good stock. But Dell certainly was a missed opportunity and a heck of a lot better. When you're looking for things that you don't normally trade, you want them trading at explosive price levels with explosive catalysts.
Who knew people are still buying Dell computers too, by the way? Someone is, apparently.
We used to only get Dells on the trading floor.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, it was like Dell, HP, and not much else. That was what you had to choose from.
That's what you did. You got. When Sean and I opened our trading floor, we got a bunch of Dell PCs off lease. And that was the jam. That's what everybody did back then, and it worked. So,
all right, let's get into some insight here because I'm actually a little excited about this topic of talking about an unexpected break. If anybody's been watching throughout the week, you've noticed or should have noticed on the show. There's been a lot of people missing around here unexpectedly, and we want to just touch on the fact that mentally, if you are a trader, this is going to cause a lot of stress, not only because you're obviously not feeling well, but stress in the fact that, I mean, if you miss an hour or two in the market, you come back to something that is unrecognizable versus what you were dealing with prior to that. If you then say miss 1, 2, 3, or even 4 days in a row, that just accentuates the fact that there's a lot of data in between there you're missing, and it's really, really good to take a pause and take a step back, digest what is happening right now, and also or at least try to understand what you missed.
So I mean, the first thing if I miss a few days, I can be looking generally at the market, right? Like it's fine. Like I can check to see what the market did overall, or just stocks that I'm following. I can do that from home, and I do that every day anyways. It's just kind of what you do when you're a trader. Yeah. But you don't have the same feeling. You weren't watching trade stocks. You weren't looking at relative strength and weakness maybe the way that you would when you're trading every single day. Everything starts with what did the market do and what are the key price levels. So the first thing I did when I sat down was I went right into every single time frame on, whether it's the Qs or the SPY. Obviously, we trade a lot of tech here. So I looked at the NASDAQ. What did I miss this week? What does the 15-minute look like? What does the daily chart look like on the Qs? And what is the overall trend that I missed? I missed a pretty strong, sort of like several days of an upward trend. I'm like, okay, are there any key price levels? The first thing I noticed was that 15,000 was still a bit of a deal. And then I worked from that top down. But it had to start from there. Am I missing an overall market trend? And then I also ask myself, what is relatively strong, what is relatively weak in the overall market? Is there anything that stands out? And the most important thing is, look specifically at the names that you intend to trade, right? So I know we're going to have the watch list out there, but without even looking at what was in play, I went to see, okay, well, what are the levels on NVIDIA? What are the levels on, where did we come up with 137 on Amazon? It was going back over to that as well. So I went over to NVIDIA. Okay, we're still rejecting 500. I wanted to see what does a price action look off of that 500 level. Was able to see still finding big resistance off of that 500 level. And when you look at the daily chart, it wasn't a dramatic change to what I was looking at last week. But it was good to know. Good bounce, but right back into previous resistance levels on something like NVIDIA. So I came in with a look that could be something that might be shorted. Again, this is without putting any trades on or looking for anything that had catalysts. When there was deliveries on the Chinese EV names, I looked at those, but I also looked at Alibaba because I'm never going to trade. You can look at the ETF if you want to. I like looking at these one by one because I have the time in the morning to do so, and that's why I like to get in early. What is going on in the granddaddy? Was Alibaba still trending to the upside? Okay, yes. Baba was still bouncing off lows and trending higher. You were still seeing relative strength in that name. So I went down the line on every single group, whether it was the EV names as a whole. That's how I knew to look at Rivian in the afternoon, whether it was looking at the Chinese ADRs as a group, finding some key levels there, finding the general trend, and then just get comfortable. Once I was comfortable with this is what happened in the last few days, then I can start thinking about trading ideas. And I did that for like a half an hour. Like I spent probably what was normally prep time looking specifically at trades for that day. I spent a half an hour extra time just going over some of the 15-minute charts and the daily charts of just broad market looks and broad sector look names, knowing what the key levels were, know what the trend was, and know what I had missed out on, because I want to be really comfortable with that trading environment. And then the other thing is, I always tell myself that I should make less trades at the open, which I think I did a good job of today.
Specifically, though, I mean, people take vacation. Obviously, you're going to be away from the market. Specifically with newer traders, it seems to be a little bit more difficult to understand the fact that the market is always changing, always evolving, always moving, always adjusting itself. So understand that if you're away for even a day, you're coming back to something that has changed since the last time you saw it. And it's important, as you were saying, to kind of go back and see what has happened and what was missed along the way. You touched on it right off the bat when we popped on here, but Lululemon, obviously 6% to the upside today, ends the day clearly above this range on the daily chart. If you missed it this morning, it was on the watch list, top of the watch list this morning. Great looking earnings report. They increased their forecast. They talked a little bit about China being stronger than expected, but on the call, as I mentioned this morning, there were a few kind of cautious comments, I thought anyway, when it comes to the overall economy specifically, and demand going forward might be a little bit of a question mark. Still, I mean, a great looking day for Lululemon coming off of an earnings season that has been kind of wishy-washy, specifically for, I mean, go back and look at Under Armour, go back and look at Nike, all of these types of stocks stand out here for sure.
Yeah, there is no question how great a move like Lululemon had, but it is worth keeping in mind the environment that you're in. It is a difficult time to buy retail at a high. I mean, that's obvious. Like you still have a lot of people that think we're getting into a market pullback, and there's some signs of the economy, you know, maybe getting not a huge pullback, but there's at least some signs out there. You have the threat of, you know, rates going higher. I understand a lot of that's there, but as far as a trade goes, understand this is a brand that people love. So fundamentally speaking, it's a well-run company. They do their growth was pretty fantastic. They did have some issues with same-store sales outside of China. I mean, but that's fair enough. It was still decent growth, even if it did miss. There were a few things that you should be cautious with. I just think it's a breakout till it's not, and I feel this is what I always look at. If a stock is breaking out of a big level, and now you're above that 400 level on the daily, I want to make one of these a weekly, as a matter of fact, because sometimes when you're looking at a higher time frame, you want to look at this. Look at the weekly chart, and this will be difficult. Let me just pop that out, this weekly, so you can see it a little bit better. I just like, just to show you where you're breaking out from on the weekly. Like, this is a big break happening at 400 with a lot of room to the upside. So until this gets back underneath like 380 or something, whatever, just look. I'm looking long.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it has to go up, but when I see this big break happening on a weekly, I am looking for long opportunities. That meant there was a dip buy at 386 today. There was a breakout at 400 today, a 405 break maybe on Tuesday, a dip back into the 400 level. Like, a lot of things are going to possibly set up here, but I'm just thinking about the break until it proves otherwise. And if it decides to immediately reject this breakout, fair enough. That's fine. You know, if it gets back underneath 380 and it's rejecting this break, then it wasn't meant to be. But I'm not going to sit there saying, doom and gloom, you're going to short this level. To me, it's a breakout until it's proven otherwise. Great day for Lulu.
I want to give our friend Michael Noss over at Trade Ideas a shout out. I know he's watching right now. Great couple of days here, to say the least. For Tilray and cannabis stocks right across the board, wrapping up the week, basically at the highs here. Going back to this time last week, he was touching on why he was getting involved in Tilray. So obviously a technical trade. I mean, you're never going to be involved on purpose ahead of news. And if you are, you're probably also going to jail. Not saying that that is the case. Michael Noss obviously didn't know.
What did he know?
Didn't know anything other than technicals, which he relies on. By the way, Trader TV 30, guys, all weekend long, get you 30% off over at Trade Ideas. So if you missed it, another highlight, obviously, from this week, if we want to go back and do a little bit of a review here from what stood out on the week, not only was there a ton of movement in cryptocurrencies, but there was a ton of movement in cannabis because of this HHS announcement recommending that they lower from the third, whatever it is called.
Schedule 3.
Schedule 3, thank you. A Schedule 3 drug in the U.S. to a Schedule 1. So what that means for cannabis going forward remains to be seen. We're obviously just speculating across the board. But great look for Mr. Noss, great look for cannabis in general. Great looks for cryptocurrency as well, going all the way back to Monday.
Yeah, I mean, look, I missed a couple of days that you got the great run on volume in Tilray into that level. And if it had broken out today, great. I did like a 320 break if it could have gotten out of that double top. It just never happened, which is fair. You don't have to take a trade if it's not there. But this is another thing. Like, it's now consistently, if you look at the daily chart, it's making some higher lows. And more importantly, if I look at what's going on in the weekly on Tilray, like, this is getting very, very interesting on that weekly. You can see it starting to curl, and once it breaks, if it breaks this local high, you've got room to $5 on the weekly chart. And maybe this is the catalyst that does it. You never really know with essentially penny stocks, like, which catalyst is going to be the one. I don't know. But that's why Michael, and rightfully so, looks at the technicals, because when it breaks that top, there's 50% upside. That's the only thing I see for a potential trade. So I know as a trader, I want to have that break when it gets there, and you can risk 10. As a day trader, you can risk 10 cents. As a swing trader, you can risk whatever you want to there. But it's a strong-looking breakout trade. I will kick myself for not getting involved in coin today. That's not the right term. I didn't get involved enough in coin today. That's the proper way to put it. I did have one successful short on it. It should have been like 8. I mean, like, at the open, coin gave up $80, Neil. At the open, it gave up $80. It rejected the 50 period on the daily recently, just yesterday. So it just gave up the 50 period. It is pulling back from 100 on the weekly and consolidating off the bottom. And it gave up that level and then just immediately gave you lower high after lower high, stair-stepping all day long. You probably could have shorted this thing 6 or 7 times at every single peak and never looked back, and it was never any trouble. So as much as there was some good news for coin recently and for crypto recently, you get that spike a couple of days ago and give it all back in Bitcoin. That's pretty darn bearish as far as I'm concerned, which means short Coinbase at will.
That's the way the crypto world rolls sometimes. But if you missed it, overnight, we give it all back from Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was, on that note from the SEC that they once again have delayed this decision on ETFs for a whole bunch of long list of companies already filing for possible crypto ETFs. Let's go on to some semiconductor stocks here. AMD, NVIDIA, AVGO. Broadcom obviously takes the spotlight today. Coming off earnings. I was just kind of scrolling through randomly here. some analyst moves. I mean, $1,000, $990, $1,000, $975. The price targets on this thing are pretty impressive. NVIDIA, I mean, it's going to be NVIDIA. It's worth noting, actually, coming up, there's going to be a short on the weekend, guys. Watch out for it, talking a little bit about a Citigroup. Citigroup's hosting their technology conference next week. It's all week long. There's a huge list of companies that are presenting at it. NVIDIA is one of those. It's Thursday at lunchtime, I think, 12:30, something like that. I mean, what else could they possibly say as far as AI is concerned at this point? But anytime not only this company, but the CEO opens his mouth at this point, the market has to listen.
You don't have a choice at this point. But the good thing about this is there's been a bit of a sea change, I think, with some of these announcements, because there was a time like a couple of months ago where if something started going, you just didn't want to get in the way of it. But the last few AI type announcements have been very fadeable.
Yep.
So I mean, the algos are just buying this stuff up. If something big happens and you can see a volume like maybe it goes like $10, it feels a little bit safer to fade a ridiculous move if it gets to a resistance level. Now, fortunately for us, that's kind of where NVIDIA happens to be right now. So, it's trying to break that 500. Not tomorrow, but if next week we're still failing that level, maybe it's in the 490s, let's just say, and we do get some kind of announcement that presses it higher. Like, let's just imagine it was trading down here in the 85, like where we close today. If something were to spike at $10 and there's resistance at 500, and I see one of those moves while the conference is going on, then fading that has been a workable play.
Yeah.
You saw it with Apple when it had its last, when they had the news, it could not sustain it. I mean, the week before Microsoft had actually sustained, then Apple could not do it. You've seen it to a smaller extent with some of the other chip names in there. I mean, you've had these semi-spikes in Intel. But I just feel as if it's in a bit of a different mode. A lot of the buying that's going on in NVIDIA is this buy the dip mentality, right? So they're definitely still buying dips. That's why you're getting a lot of this strength, but it is not the same attitude as what we were seeing before, where it's just like, it's just buy and levitate higher and higher. You're actually starting to slow down and consolidate a little bit here. And that means you're going to have some opportunities to fade any kind of ridiculously explosive move. Let the algos overbuy it. Don't chase. I'm not going to chase anything. I'm not buying any tops during any announcement next week on NVIDIA. And if I miss out, I miss out, because I'd rather be trying to take the mean reversion trade.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit at 2 o'clock here this afternoon about, there's been a lot of people talking about the next. So many people have missed this move in NVIDIA that they're trying to find the next one that's going to go because of this. And Broadcom was mentioned in that, coming off earnings today. But yeah, exactly. Great point. Definitely don't chase. Yeah, that's a look at the the tech space today. So NVIDIA obviously a standout here in red, 1.7%, 5.5% here for Broadcom when all is said and done. But look at AMD and Intel up here with great days, 3.5%, 4% for Intel. Both positive on the day and look great. Apple, you mentioned they're 0.85. I just double checked. It's September 12th. So right around the corner, we get the iPhone 15 as well. So speaking of that news type breaking news event, a couple weeks out from the Apple event, which is typically in the afternoon because it's held in California. Afternoon market time, obviously. September 12th, and then the very next day we get CPI.
That'll be fun times. It's weird about Apple because I feel as if there's always that whenever there's like a new release, it almost feels as if you're looking for the sell the news type of event.
Yeah.
Like buy the rumor, sell the news. I always feel the same way when it happens. So I tend to look for like a turning point in the stock, at least that day. That's just more of a day trade kind of idea than anything else. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen on Apple, but maybe it is as simple as, it'd be nice if it was as simple as it going into the highs. We still have some time. Like we have a full week to trade before you even have to think about it. But it would be pretty simple if we were getting right into the local high in front of that 200 level, and then they drop the new iPhone. At that point, to me, that's easier to sell the news. It is grinding higher. It's definitely breaking out with this market. Everyone wants to be doom and gloom. Allow a bull market to be a bull market until proven otherwise. And there's certainly shortable opportunities. NVIDIA has been a great opportunity to short recently. I think you just have to pick your spots for it. But generally, when you have a gentle upward trend, I think you'll want to respect it.
Chart looks great.
I mean, it's a great looking chart. I tend to lean on 12th. I'll probably be looking to sell the top.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, if the market, I was noticing today some of the ETFs that have Apple in it are actually either at or very, very close to all-time highs. Yep. And we saw on that chart there that Apple still has some ways to go. But who knows? I mean, typically that event, bye Ramin, have a great weekend. Typically that event is a kind of sell the news type of event. But we'll see. Coming up on the 12th. All right, let's, I guess roll call is next. You have the chat open over there. Let's give some shout outs. Yeah,
I want to get some shout outs in there. I see, I mean, like Darwin's been in there. Where's the Apple car? I don't know where the heck the Apple car is. Darwin, Benny S wants 500 likes. I want 500 likes as well. Let's get there. Tony Price shouts you out in the chat there. Star Stacks 1,400 watching. Who wants the market to stay open? We all want the market to stay open.
Always.
One day there will be a 24-hour market. It's not this day, though. And Daryl, 490 fade on NVIDIA was a fantastic trade. I mean, every fade on NVIDIA that you can grab is a fantastic one. I didn't have if you had 490, congratulations to you. I didn't. That was not the trade I had. I was looking at that 88, 89, but that was a great one down there. I think it was a good one to be had. Zion in the chat. Love the show. Always enjoy Brendan on the show. I always enjoy having Brendan because he's a repository of information. He keeps everybody informed.
Stop.
He does so much. This is the thing. Like, before we were doing the show, when you wanted to keep up with what was happening in news, you got to do that crap yourself as a trader. Like the floor managers would also sometimes be yelling stuff out there. But trust me, now having somebody constantly scanning news for you and having you guys basically keeping us informed with what's moving that we're missing, like it's so invaluable that like we're so blessed. You have no idea. It's so much easier to stay in tune with the market when we have Brendan and we have you guys in the chat that do a fantastic job. Benny S, I envy you guys trading since the 2000s or more. I'm telling you.
Don't. Have you seen the gray hair on
I know, like we're old. So shout out to you and I appreciate you saying that. We have a lot of experience with a lot of things that we've seen. And I can go stories all day long. I just wish I didn't have to have the gray hair. It would be nice to have the experience without getting older. Now, I have no idea how that works, but if somebody figures that out, you're going to be really rich.
It's a little stressful.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun trading, and we're definitely fortunate. In Pillsbury, you guys are definitely better and faster than CNBC. That's part of the point. And I'm not taking anything away from that channel. Yeah. That's for investors. We're for traders. And there's nothing wrong with that because, look, as a casual investor, there's something for everybody. Yeah. We're for you guys. We're for traders. And that's the idea. We have to be talking about what's moving now because if we're not doing our job because traders care about the now. We're not waiting a half an hour to get to a story that's happening right now. We're going to show you the stock and get through it live. Hopefully that's why you guys love it. Tony Price says, happy birthday, Brendan.
Thank you. You're, what is it? A month and 6 days too late, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There we go.
The next birthday is, I mean, it's Sean's. He doesn't care. I can say it.
Yeah, of course.
Sean's the next birthday coming up. Sean's born in September.
Sean will broadcast it himself, as everyone knows, to anyone who wants to know. But happy birthday, Sean, even though it's not Sean's birthday.
Just a big point. You guys will, here's a tidbit for you guys. Sean and his brother, they're not twins. They're born on the same day. I forget what the term is for that. So on Sean's birthday, which he'll let you guys know. No, they're not the same year. They're actually a year apart. You can also say happy birthday to Mike, Michael, his brother. So you can heard that from me every single year, and Sean knows this. Yeah. I was wishing a happy birthday, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh shoot, just say happy birthday to Mike for me too, because I always forget. Mike was great. He's a great dude. He actually traded on our old trading floor back in the day. Yeah. I've never met him. Great dude. I've never met him. You never met Mike? No. Yeah. Okay. Good. I don't know, man, you should visit the office sometime. It's weird, but he used to trade on our campus floor. Oh, cool. For a few years, yeah.
Shout out to Max as well, who will be back in the building on Tuesday, allegedly. Apparently he's now in France. I learned from...
I thought he went to Barcelona.
I know, apparently he's now in France. I learned from Sharif today, so I hope he's having a great vacation. There he is, in his Lambo in the south of France. That's fitting for Mr. Max. He'll be back in here on Tuesday. I mean, I'm crossing my fingers. We'll be full strength once again. It's been, let's be honest, a rough week around here with a lot of people under the weather. We appreciate everyone, though. Thoughts on next week?
Giddy up.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of traders take August off. And look, I don't understand. Sometimes the market is not good in September in terms of market performance. It can be to the downside. but volume can start to pick back up when traders come back from vacation in September. And as day traders, we don't really care if the market's going up or down. We trade opportunity, and the opportunities come back in mass. It's not always about earnings. Sometimes it's about that volume just kicking up a notch.
Great stuff. We'll wrap it up at that. Everyone enjoy a long holiday weekend. Be safe, enjoy. We'll be back on Tuesday, guys. Have a wonderful long weekend. We'll see you then.
Bye, guys.